Shalom uvracha, welcome dear Shluchim to this special Farbrengen webinar with Dr. David Lazarson. It's an honor and a pleasure to spend time with Shluchim any day of the year, especially in the days approaching the holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's right now 4:15 p.m. Eastern, and the plan is to Farbrengen for about an hour. And if you have to come and go, please do so. We recognize your busy schedules, and we're very excited that you're here with us for this live Farbrengen, and those who aren't live on the line but will be picking it up in the recording, so we welcome you as well. Dr. Laz suggested that we start with a L'chaim. So L'chaim L'vracha, it's quite the incredible thought that in just about every corner of the world, there are Shluchim of the Rebbe who are going to be dedicating the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to taking care of the Jews who are in their communities, large numbers, small numbers, but definitely high in quantity. High in quality. And that's the focus of today's Farbrengen. So l'chaim to you where you are, and hatzlacha over the top, being mekarev these yidden to the Rebbe, to the Eibusher, and it should be a Shana Teva for everybody. L'chaim. A brief word of introduction. In my simple understanding of the Rebbe's call to Shluchim to take care of Yidden everywhere in the world, it means literally that. Every Yid, everywhere in the world. And our job is only complete when that is the reality on the ground. Every Jew has a home, every place in the world. A couple years back, we had a Farbrengen after Rosh Hashanah, and it was designed to be a pick-me-up for Shluchim who did not have a crowd, in some cases not even a minyan. Elio Schusterman arranged it with me, and one of the Shluchim who were on the line was Rabbi Yechiel Shlomo Levitansky, somewhere in the Ukraine. And he told the following word of inspiration. He said he remembers as a bacher, well, first he explained to us that on Yom Kippur he was davening for the Ummah. Now he was the chazan, the baker, the rabbi, the gabbai, the greeter, the cleaner-upper, and everything else. And he was davening Musaf for the Ummah Yom Kippur, and his son said to him, give him a tap on the shoulder, said, Tati, there are only 12 people left. And a few minutes later, his kid tapped him again and said, Tati, there's only 8 people left. Now he's the chazan. And it was a matter of time until his kid tapped him and said, Tati, you're the only one in the room. And he was the chazan. And what are you going to do? And he shared the following inspiration. It was Simchas Torah, Tafshin and Beis, and I was blessed to be in 770 on that morning. And when the Rebbe came in for Shacharis, 770 was not as full as it had been the night before, or as full as it would be by the time Hakafa started, because it was relatively early morning for those who Farbrengen all night. I think the Rebbe didn't go upstairs till close to 4 o'clock in the morning, so the crowd wasn't there yet. And the Rebbe walked in, and this was an incredible uplifted feeling in the room. The Rebbe got straight to his place, put the siddur down on the stender, turned around, and started encouraging the niggin of Sheyibana. Wow! It was like we went from 0 to 150 in less than a couple seconds. And Rabbi Levitansky said, I remember standing there thinking, who's the Rebbe looking at? The room is nearly empty. Who's the Rebbe looking at? And he explained, I understood in my mind, the Rebbe's not looking at us in the room. The Rebbe's looking at every Jew everywhere in the world. And we know enough stories of where the Rebbe sent, for example, Rabbi Weinberg or others to a location for one day to meet one Jew and come home. And he said, here I am in my place, and I think somewhere in the Ukraine, he said, there are times where I get up in the morning, I think to myself, the Rebbe sent me here today, for this day, to meet one Jew, and that's what I'm doing here. And that was how he brings with himself when the crowd, simply put, was not there. In my humble estimation, it takes a very unique type of a chassid to be the shliach in the small location. We know lots of stories of lots of big chassidim and lots of big places pulling off lots of huge operations. And today's Farbrengen is dedicated for those who are in smaller locations, answering the Rebbe's call of wherever a Jew is going to be, we're going to find them, seek them out with love, give them a place to be, and connect with them. And with that introduction, Dr. Laz, Thank you for helping my father with his journey to Yiddishkeit back in Buffalo many years ago. And I know it goes vice versa both ways. But you guys are heroes to many, and you paved the way. And please say L'chaim and share with us some of your firsthand stories of your struggle, the real life struggle of why would I do this for so few people? And the growth as a chassid that you've experienced because of it. L'chaim v'levracha.
Chaim, rabbis everywhere, all the great shluchim, and keep up the awesome work. Don't ever get discouraged. I know that's easier said than done, but chin up, as they say, and bottoms up. L'chaim. This was a Kiddush Cup from Chabad at University of Florida by Rabbi Goldman. So they always, every year they come up with these great, goodies that they send out to their chevra. So I want to welcome all the shluchim wherever you're listening in and tuning in, and really appreciate it. And I thought I would start with a story that's Nogea L'Maisa, and it's definitely personally Nogea because it concerns my Buffalo Bills. And being from Buffalo, so this year, Baruch Hashem, we're off to a good start. We're 2-0, which is very unusual. I wish the season would end now. And, we first place in our division. But when Marv Levy was the Jewish coach of the Buffalo Bills, so I was actually known as the Buffalo Bills rabbi. And so I was pretty close with Marv Levy, tried to get him to put on tefillin, which is the hidden reason why they never won the Super Bowl, because he always managed to sneak away from me and never put on. But there's this great line of his that I absolutely love, which I think is so awesomely powerful and totally nogea to our Farbrengen today. So he would get with the players before the game. And you know how they all put their arms in the middle, everybody's got their hands in the middle like this, the whole crew. And Marv Levy would say, where would you rather be than right here? And that players would all yell back, right now. Okay, where would you rather be than right here, right now? And, when I first heard him doing that, it just struck me that's such a Hasidic minhag. That's really, the Rebbe wants us to be here, right now. And, not to go with our, with a sad look, the frown on our face, what the heck are we doing there? But this is where we're meant to be. If I can, from my background, quote a Beatles song, and one of the Beatles songs that says, nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. Okay, nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be, which is a great, also a great line. And so we all sort of find ourselves in places that we're really meant to be. So if you're tuning in, this is where you're meant to be. And I'm meant to be right here, and hopefully, sharing and learning together with you. But I felt like when Marv said that, that I said to myself, I should translate that into my day-to-day activities. You get up in the morning, and then you daven, and then you head to work, and sometimes it's all, it gets rather rote-like. But we got to be right here, right now. And then, then it's sort of a living miracle. It's like every moment is a living miracle. So if we keep our minds open and keep our eyes open, and then all these awesome things just take place right in front of us. So I wanted to share that with you, and I think it's a good thing if you even want to write it down, just to remember, where would you rather be than right here, right now? And so I got to give a yeshar koach to Marv Levy, Jewish coach of the Buffalo Bills. He brought the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls in a row. Now, speaking of that, because we're talking about quality over quantity. So I can't tell you how often I get ribbed on the fact, oh, the Bills stink, the Bills are this, the Bills are that. What's the new area code of Buffalo? 004, they lost 4 in a row. But you realize for 5 years in a row, they were the winningest football team in the NFL. And I just mentioned that because in terms of quality, they were there. So you could say, but they never won the big one. But chutz mizah, forget about that. So they didn't win the Super Bowl. They were in 2 of them. 2 of the 4 they got blown out. But for 5 years straight, there was no team in the NFL that had a better record than them. I mean, they were just an awesome team. So if you go by quality over quantity, they were there. But very often, unfortunately, in our crazy world, in this olam hagashmi, sometimes we get hung up in quantity. And, that's the physical world. Misha yesh lo mana ratza masayim. In fact, I have a Chrysler 200. And so in the foot mats, it says 200 on them. But I'm thinking to myself, Misha yesh lo masayim ratza daled, right? You want 400. So 200 isn't good enough. But the Chrysler doesn't make a 400. If you had 400, you want more. So, I mean, there's a lot of sikhas where the Rebbe explains that, that's actually, a healthy attitude. When it comes to baruchnias, you always want to grow. We should always want to grow and always want more. And sometimes we get hung up in the gashmias, where we have this, we have that, but if I only had a little more of this, a little more of that. And for some of you, you might know that I teach in the public schools. I started off in the public school system. And this is I'll share this with you, 42 years straight. I have been teaching special ed, and I absolutely love what I do. And every day people are saying, hey, Laz, when are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? And my first thought is, do I look that old? Do I look like ancient history or something? And so I always tell them, I'm thinking about retiring in 40, 50 years from now. And they look at me like I'm out of my mind. But I love what I do. And for me, working with, I do music therapy for students with profound special needs. And I have them up to age 22. So I remember when I was in the yeshiva in Morristown, and Rabbi Lifsker was encouraging us, no, you can't just sit here and learn. You got to get out into the world. You got to get married. You got to have kids. You got to get out into the real world and make an impact in the real world. So I was actually the second guy to get married and the first guy to move off of the yeshiva grounds into the town of Morristown itself. And remember, Rabbi Lipsker shared a word with me. He said, you're not in this physical world until you've changed your kid's diaper. So I saw him a few years back, and I said to Rabbi Lipsker, nah, you're not in this world until you've changed one of my students' diapers. Because I work with students who are up to 22 years old. And sometimes they're 250, 300 pounds. So that Kanai Nahara is a diaper. That Kanai Nahara is really being in this world. And I mention that because they have helped me in my perspective to see how, just to be grateful for all the brachas that we have in our lives. I'm talking to you right now. You're understanding, you're thinking, your brain is turning, you're reacting somehow. Maybe you're reacting emotionally, you're reacting intellectually, whatever it is. And some of my students don't have that ability. I have a lot of my students who are nonverbal, a lot of them in wheelchairs. And so they've really taught me to not be so hung up on the gashmias and to look more at quality over quantity. So with that, I want to share with you two stories. One, I'll start with a story that happened to me in Binghamton. So I went to do a Shabbaton for the Sloanims in Binghamton. Some of you, I'm sure you know Rabbi Sloanim and Rebbetzin Sloanim, the real, dynamic couple. He's as big of a chassid as I've ever met. she's a real dynamo, and they're like a real power couple. And so I've done several Shabbatones for them in music programs over the years, and it's been amazing to see the growth that took place and that's taking place. But so I went, this is going back when everything was in their house. And so there was about 150 students, which I was amazed at, because when I was a college student at the University of Buffalo, and I remember that I took my my last semester, and I'll be quite honest with you, I was not into Yiddishkeit. I was about to marry, or pardon the expression, a beautiful blonde shiksa. And so I was very confident of who I was and where I was at. And then I see a course called Jewish Mysticism taught by Rabbi Garari. Well, little did I know that this short little rabbi in a high squeaky voice would blow my mind in many ways and light up my neshama.
Pause and say l'chaim for that one.
L'chaim. So all I have is Rashi here until my wife comes home and finds the better stuff. But l'chaim, chaver, l'chaim, all the awesome shluchim. And by the way, Rabbi Shmuel, your father I met when I was in the middle of that course. And for me to find out that just like a half a year before, he looked like I did. He had long hair, and he was a typical alienated Jewish college student. And now he looked like a rabbi. And you know, he could open up a book and learn in Hebrew. He totally flipped me out, and he was extremely inspiring to me. I thought, wow, if he could do it, maybe there is some hope for me.
So I'll interject for a second. We'll get back to Sloan's story in a second, but yeah. Gershon Wachtel was visiting for Shabbos. He has two boys in our community, and I didn't know he was a Buffalo boy. And we're walking home from Shul Friday night, and he says, Buffalo. I said, my dad. He looks at me and says, the Rebbe sent your dad back to Buffalo to save me. I said, what are you talking about? No, I knew that when my father, Tovia Teldin, you may have been part of it. I don't know if you were there or not, but there were a couple others where they went into their first Yechidus. It was their Shchedesh Tammuz Tafshin Lamed, I don't know, maybe Lamed Beis. And my father had already been in Morristown for a little while. And his question to the Rebbe was, do I continue in yeshiva or do I go back to school? And the Rebbe said, where are you holding? And my father said, I finished year 3. The Rebbe said, go back and finish and get your degree. And my father was absolutely stunned. Like, no, the beyond predictability. Of course, go back to yeshiva. That's
right.
And turns out he ended up staying. There was a frum couple living there. He stayed on their couch for 6 months because by then he was a frum yid. And Gershon told me, he said, I had already become frum and I was starting to slip. And your dad came back and picked me up. So he often...
I think he came back to save me as well.
It's interesting. So you talk about the one individual that ever sent him back. You thought you belonged in yeshiva. No, I got work for you to do.
Okay, it's interesting you mentioned Tuvia Teldin. He was my chavruso in Morristown. And we looked so much alike back in the day that when I became engaged, and he was my shomer, you know, and when he walked into the room, my wife immediately went like this. She thought it was me. And then when we went for the first Shabbat brachas, he comes into the room and everybody starts dancing with him. And I'm like, fellas, here I am.
It's good. All right, back to the story.
Yeah. So, okay, so it was at Rabbi Sloan's. It was in Binghamton. And he had over 100 students Friday night. And it just boggled my mind because when I was a college student, like the last place I would be at a quote unquote, you know, Jewish religious facility and doing Shabbat. But so I was very impressed with that. And it was in their house. And so I spoke during the meal a few times. I did some of my Jewish rap songs, kind of blew them away. I was actually the first rapper in the Jewish music scene. I don't know if a lot of the Shluchim don't know that, but that came way before Shlak Rock. I know I'm giving away my age. You know, Matis was in diapers. And So they were kind of blown away by that because they weren't used to seeing a guy with a beard and yarmulke, doing rap. And so after, and I spoke during the meal, and then, so after the meal was over, Rabbi Shluchim came up to me and he said to me, every Shabbos morning before davening, I give a shir. But, you're fresh blood in town, so new face, panim chadasha. So I'd like you to give the shir Shabbos morning. So I put my foot in my mouth and I said, sure, no problem. And so I remember and by the way, if you know the Slonim, Rabbi Shluchim, he davens every word, the kavana. They sing like almost the entire davening, and I'm on shpilkis because I got a little bit of that ADHD going on, and so like, can't we get through this already? Like, everything like is slow, the kavana, the proper pronunciation, and so anyhow, I wake up Shabbos morning and I hear Rabbi Shluchim's voice from the end of the hallway. We're in their little room that was turned into a shul, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I overslept, and so now I had a problem because at the end of the hallway was two rooms on each side. One room is my bedroom, the other one is the bathroom, and then you come back down the hallway and it opens up into the where the shul is, where he's now learning with the students. So my dilemma was, I'm in my PJs. I have to run across the hallway, run to the bathroom to change. So I said, do I wait? And I was like, no, if I wait, it gets worse the longer I wait. So let me make a mad dash. So I sort of went like this, didn't dare look to the left, down the hallway. And I quickly run into the bathroom. I do this quick Superman change into my Shabbos clothes, wash up and everything. And I zip on down the hallway, and Rabbi Shluchim was so into it, I could hear his voice, even while I'm changing in the bathroom. And, I figured that if he had 125 students Friday night, he's probably got 30, 40 students Shabbos day. And so I come running down the hallway, like, I'm going to apologize, walk into the room, and he is learning with, you take a guess how many students? Uno. One student is sitting there across the table, and he has, some crackers, some juice. He's learning with one student. And I'm telling you, I was flabbergasted. It was maybe like 8:30, 8:40 in the morning, and davening is still like about an hour to go. Come on, give me a break. If one student is knocking on my door, I'm going to be honest with you, and it's 8:30 in the morning, I'll say to them, how about we learn after the meal? Come to my house 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, come then. Right now, 8:30 in the morning, give me a break. That's what I would for sure would have thought. But he was so, I think the thing that really amazed me was how, that I really thought there was like 30, 40 students there, maybe more. Just he was so animated. He was so sincere. It wasn't like, yeah, in this week's Parsha, let's get into the Parsha. I think I need my second cup of coffee. Could you just bring me a cup of coffee? He was there. He was right here, right now. Where would you rather be than right here, right now? And he was like 110% there for that student. So at davening, then we had the davening. It was very nice. They had the meal. Spoke again. They wanted some more rap stuff, and of course, by the meal, a lot more students came. And when I had some private time with him, I said to him, how do you do that? Rabbi Shluchim, how do you do that? How do you get up the energy, the enthusiasm, the earnestkeit? How are you able to do that? And he said to me as follows. He said, we have 125 students here Friday night because I put myself out 125% for one student. He said, and you know what? And that'll translate. Next week, maybe 2 students will come. And then maybe 4 students will show up. And then who knows how many. But you know what? Today, his Chabad house is huge. It's beautiful. They're soon probably going to outgrow that. It's not in his house anymore. It's like sort of behind his house. And now, I kid you not, for the last Shabbaton I did for him, which was maybe a year and a half ago, they had about 400 students Friday night. 400, okay? And it goes to the fact because for one student, you're 100% there. Like, and for me, it boggles my mind because I don't think I could do that. Like, I've had all these lessons in my life that teach me that's what you should do. That's what you should do. And you can do it. But it's always like, twisting my right arm. But because I feel that they're, they put themselves out and they're not into the quantity happens automatically. We focus on the quality and the quantity happens automatically. I can just tell you that South Florida, I was speaking to Rabbi Lipsker one time and, they were davening, I think it was maybe in a hotel room, or maybe in his apartment even. And a guy came up to him and he gave him a check for $1 million. He thought it was a joke. He was going to rip it up. And the guy said to him, the guy didn't look like, he was wealthy, anything special. And he only davened there a few times. And he said, I love what you do. I love how you're so sincere. You're so positive. You're always positive and always, coming across like you're 100% there. Here's a check for $1 million. Build yourself a nice shul. And he's got the famous quote unquote the shul in South Florida, which is amazing. So I feel that if we focus on quality, the quantity is going to come. Don't get discouraged. The quantity will come. And I would just look at like how the Rebbe could stand on his feet for hour after hour, and and how that famous line, when you're counting diamonds, you don't sit down. You're like, here comes another precious diamond. Wow, look at this. But the Rebbe really saw it. It was no joke. For me, maybe it's just a story, but the Rebbe really, really saw that. So that's my my one limud. I have that I learned from Rabbi Shluchim, and it's something that I really try to take to heart. I think about it a lot, and I really try to take it to heart in my my daily life. I really, like when I'm a few guys in shul, they said to me, oh, you've written all these books and blah, 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 and you're working with special needs kids in the public school, you should be like dean of the university, like that. But I don't think like that. Like that's, I get the offer, we'll talk about it then. But, they're disappointed that that's not what I'm doing. But I feel like wherever I am, I've got to be all there. And so, I'll just share with you, I have like a kid in a wheelchair. This kid's name is Lewis. And I've had him for like 3 years. And he comes into my music room and he sits in a wheelchair and he's basically like this the whole time. And maybe last year at some point I put a maraca in his hand and I started shaking his hand to the beat. Well, do you know, he started shaking that maraca and his eyes opened up. And he maybe shook that maraca for about 3 minutes, and then he threw it across the room. He was done. But he woke up, and I felt like, is that his problem? No, it was my problem. It was my problem that, like, why am I looking at him like he can't do? He can do if I'm willing to go out of my dalet amas, this poor kid is just sitting there, nebuch, and I'm thinking like, assuming that he's not processing anything, but you always have to assume ability, and we got to be there. And it's a kick in the derriere for me. Like every day when I'm teaching, like I can't just sit down and play guitar and sing songs to them. I got to get up and I have to interact with them physically, get in their face, and whisper in their ear and really be there for them. And it really has taught me a lot. I've really learned, it's like the old thing when we tell Mida Yossi Makulam, and even these students with profound special needs, amazing lessons. And we'll maybe save that for another time. I want to share another story that happened. Can I go into that?
Yeah, I just want to interject for a second. As you're talking on processing, you talk about not seeing the ability in the special needs children. In a sense, there's a parallel of the Yid who I don't think is shaykh to the mitzvah. I don't think he's shaykh to come. And it's not my job to decide how he will respond. I think in the schus of today's Fabring, and I had a very special experience this morning. I helped the Jew put on tefillin for the first time in his life. And I had no idea how he would respond, but we were on the phone, and I used the opportunity. I said, I have something special in mind for you. He said, tell me. I said, have you ever prayed with tefillin on? He said, no. I said, I said, you've got a Jewish mom, I've got a Jewish mom. He said, yeah. I said, so we're brothers and this belongs to both of us. You have a few minutes, come on by, we'll do something special together. He said, that sounds good. And it turns out he grew up in Arkansas on a farm. Grandparents are survivors. He doesn't have a Jewish name. The bris was in the hospital. So he never saw tefillin in his life. And it was coming up, knowing that we're entering into this Fabrengen of the one individual counts, I gave off the energy of, this is good for you. Would you like to do something that's good for you? And he stepped right in. I can't say, he choked up, but we talked about coming back once a week, putting out tefillin again. And so the responsibility on my part to see that ratzon inside the neshama of a Jew, a Yid wants to connect with the Eibusher, like Hayom Yom says, not they want to stay torn apart from the Eibusher. So seeing them as the one that's able to rattle that tchotchke in the mitzvah sense, they catch on to that. And even if they throw it and say, I'm done for now, they didn't throw it at you.
Right. And I just want to add to that, Shmuley, that I would say, this notion, if we're be here now, we're here, and we're here right now. And that, to me, one of the things that I thought was so awesome about the Rebbe was his, how he reached out to everyone. So I would even add to Jew and to Gentile as well, because if we're present in the moment, then we're not thinking about our individual situations, our individual problem. We're not hung up in our own box. If we think that, wow, I'm really here I'm here for somebody else. I'm here to serve. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. That's 24/7, right? One time we were going to a Fabrengen from Morristown, and I remember I was driving with Rabbi Lipsker, and there was a taxi cab pulled up next to us. And the on-duty light, it was on, and then he turned it to off. And Rabbi Lisker hits me in the arm, and he says to me, "You see that? You see that?" And I said, "Yeah, I see that." And therefore, he says, "Well, do you know what that means?" I said, "No." I said, "It means that guy's probably done working, and he's going home to Gay Shluffy." He said, "But the Jew's on-duty light is always on. We can't turn it off. So it's on 24/7." And so we don't have that luxury of being able to, but no, we're not on duty now. So I think if we you were on duty for that guy. And so when we had, we were on our way to camp this year, I'll just tell you, we had these two interesting experiences, one on the way there, one on the way back. And I always feel like whenever we stop at a motel, on the way or something, there's always, if I stay open, always something crazy happens. And like a year ago we got into a hotel at 3:30 in the morning, and I was again upset, oh Hashem, why are you doing this to me? What's going on? We're looking for a place. We were stuck in the boonies of Pennsylvania, and we could not find a place. And there was construction. And so here too, if if we would realize Hashem's the boss, right? Hashem's the pilot. And so if we're the co-pilot, if we realize we're the co-pilot, it takes a whole load off our shoulders. Hashem's in charge. So there's a whole load of worry that's not even on your shoulders anymore. At best, we're co-pilots. So anyway, I go into this place about 3:30 in the morning, and there's a guy sitting in the lobby, and he says to me, "Oh, you're Jewish, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He sees my yarmulke, my beard. And it turns out he was a Kohen. He was down on his luck. I lent him some money so we could take a cab to get to the, I just see somebody's trying to get into the house. Okay, hang on. I'm going with you. You made it. I'm sorry. I just heard you now. I'll show you how to do it later. Okay? Thank you. Good to see you, Margot. Thanks for coming. So, Yeah. So if we realize that, at best we're co-pilots, right? And so if we realize that we have the shlichus, it's 24/7, our on-duty light is on, and so I'm meant to be at this motel at 3:30 in the morning for some crazy reason. So what is it? So then I go to my car. I didn't really feel like talking to the guy. I was like in such a miserable mood, like an idiot. Here's a guy who's that he has to stay in the lobby and wait for the bus station to open up. He's not getting any sleep. And I'm complaining. I go to my car, I walk in with my tefillin bag. I didn't want to leave it in the car. And he says to me, wait, is that tefillin? And I said, yeah. He said, can I just hold the bag? He holds the bag, he kisses it, he starts crying. This is why I was there. You idiot. I'm complaining like Hashem's the planner. He's the boss. So it had to work out that way. And I had to go there for this guy. And I felt afterwards, you know what? Even though it was 3:30 in the morning, I should have put him on him just without a bracha. I don't know, but this is what I was thinking. But anyhow, so yeah, that's the notion. And like you said, if we're present in the moment, then we realize whoever we come in contact with, we're meant to come in contact with them. But for what? Something that we're supposed to get out of the deal, or something we're supposed to give? So I think, right, if we give, you're going to get anyhow. And if I could just share this one little story, and then I want to share the story what happened with Rabbi Spalter in Weston. Okay?
I'm going to jump in. I'm jumping for a second. An anecdote on that. A friend of mine, first experience Chabad on campus, and first party of his career. And it's a few minutes into the party, and the president of the student group walks up to him and says, Rabbi, you got to put on a smile. He says, what do you mean? He says, you look devastated. You look disappointed. He said, well, what do you mean? He says, you look like you're disappointed that there's no crowd over here. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, we're happy you're here. We're happy with whatever's going on. You've got to look happy.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good gesagt. And sometimes, yeah, that's like a booster shot for you, or a kick in the derriere. And but we also had a Misa also where we again at another hotel, and we're there. It was in South Carolina, and actually I wanted to share this one with you because I think this one is really like it's just like the coolest story. We on the way home from camp this summer, I'm still doing camp. It's over it's like 38 years straight that I'm doing camp. I think it keeps you young, and I love camp. I'm a camper at heart, and some of you may have even been to camp with me. I spent several years with Gan Yisrael and Mogen Avraham. I've currently been at this camp called Camp Mesorah for the last 22 summers. But anyhow, so we got a place that was way off the beaten track. My wife decided, let's do like an Airbnb and just do something very unusual. So I'll tell you what, anyhow, we come to this place. It was so out in the boonies. Like we got there, it's like midnight, and the guy comes out of the barn with an axe. And I said to my wife, it's a good thing I didn't watch too many horror movies growing up. And she was like, maybe we should just turn around and get out of here. And then two of his kids came out of the barn, so I felt a little safer. And yeah, we leave his place the following day. They were fine. They were really sweet people. They gave us a homemade apple pie, which we couldn't eat, obviously. And we told them why. And we said, we're Jewish. We keep kosher. They had no idea what that meant. Absolutely no idea. He wanted to know, well, y'all believe in Yeshua as a savior, right? So I told Gittel, all right, step on the gas, son. I'm jumping in. So we had a little conversation about that. Anyhow, I about a mile down the road, we come to this teeny little gas station. It's all kind of this like old beat up thing down south. And, the pumps are like half broken. I walk in, and as I walk in, I see the guy inside the gas station, his mouth falls open. He's like this. And he just follows me with his gaze. And I promise you this is true. He says to me, what are you? Not who are you, but what are you? So I was like, you mean like what religion am I? And he says, yeah. So I said, oh, I'm Jewish. You ever, the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron. And this was his reaction. He went like this. Wow. That's all he could say was, wow. I don't think he ever saw one in his life. I paid for my goodies. I said, thank you. And he was just like he never saw one in his life. So I wish him a good day. Thank you very much. But anyhow, it's that notion of being here, being now, being present, 24/7. And let me just share this story with you that happened to me and my band. We were playing for Rabbi Spalter for Chabad in Weston. And he also now has this beautiful Chabad house, beautiful shul. And for me, it's really nice to go back and do gigs for them or Shabbatons and see, just, wow, you've come a long ways, baby, that kind of thing. It was in a storefront, which is typical for a lot of, young, early Chabad houses. And so it was in a storefront, a small little place, kind of real narrow. And I went there to play for Purim. And so I had I don't know if it was a 5-piece band. I think I brought my 4-piece band. You're talking drummer, myself on guitar, keyboard player, horn player, and I bring enough equipment to take on Madison Square Garden. Right? I'm ready to rock out Madison Square Garden. I come into the Chabad house, and there's maybe 12 people. And half of the 12 are the Spalters, okay? So if you minus the Chabad family, you're talking like 5-6 people. So, okay, my big old ego gets in the way, and I am saying to myself, there is no way I am going to schlep out all this equipment, set up a full band. Are you flipping kidding me? Set up a full band. We're ready for Madison Square Garden. I'm going to play for Chabad. And so I went up to Rabbi Spalter. I said to him, Rabbi, here, in those days it was cassettes. I said, Rabbi, here's some cassettes. Here's a cassette player. I'll get it back from you, after the holiday. You just play these. You keep your money because, really what I was feeling was that this is way below my dignity. Okay? My ego cannot handle this. And I'm pulling out. And I'm saying, here's the cassettes. I'm going to save you money. I'm going to save me a lot of grief and aggravation. And he says to me, no, I hired you to play. I want you to play. And I'm trying to talk him out of it. My son was Yossi, he's a great drummer. And so he pulls me aside. He tells me to come outside. I go outside. And you know how they say kids know what buttons to push, right? So Yossi, my son Yossi, he says to me, Abba, I thought you were into this quality over quantity business. He says, put your money where your mouth is. And we came to play. He wants us to play. You don't want to get paid for it, so don't get paid for it. But we come to play, let's play. I looked at him like, wow, that's a low blow. He's, my own words coming back to haunt me. So I was like, okay, fine. I wasn't thrilled about it. I was like, okay, fine, let's go. So we open up the trunk. You're talking like a sound system. I got to set up. We got to set up drums. Like amplifiers, the whole bit. We're going to blow out the windows in this little Chabad house. So we set up and we play. And maybe 4 other people came. So you're talking, besides the rabbi's family, maybe 10 people. And he's paying me and my full band to perform. Okay. So I was doing one of my Jewish rap songs. And one of the lines was, don't mean to brag, don't mean to be coy. I just thank the good Lord, I'm a real Jew boy. And then the chorus goes, Jew boy. And the ladies would say, Jew girl, right? And it's like amongst Jews, you can say that. You can say Jew boy and Jew girl, It's like if you're black, you can say the N word, but if you're white, you can't. But amongst Jews, you can say the J word, okay? So anyhow, they're lined up along the side. Nobody was dancing except the rabbi's kids and the rabbi. And so I took the microphone and I'm walking along and having them sing along to the chorus part, right? So I get there, there's one guy sitting there, and I put the mic in front of his mouth, and I say, that don't mean to brag, don't mean to be coy, just thank the good Lord, I'm a real Jew boy, and all he has to do is say, Jew boy. And he says, Jew boy. Beautiful, awesome. I start walking to the next person. He holds my hand, and he pulls me back. And he puts the microphone in front of his mouth. We did it again. I start walking away. He pulls me back. So 3 or 4 times I go back to this guy with the microphone. Then afterwards I'm thinking, okay, sir, that's really nice, but we got to share the glory. Let everybody get a chance, And okay, and then I go down the line. Everybody has a chance to participate. We finish the song. We take a break. And these 2 ladies come up to me. And they both have tears in their eyes. And one looked to be the mother, one was the daughter, which turned out to be the case. And she starts to speak, and then she starts crying. So at first I'm thinking, like, usually when they come up to you, they're either going to tell you how great the music was, but if they're crying, they're going to tell you it's way too loud. I'm thinking she's going to complain about the volume, which happens, quite a bit. So although in my older age, I've gotten used to turning it down somewhat. But so she tells me this follows. She said, this is my daughter, and that's my husband who kept pulling you back with the microphone. He had a stroke about 3 months ago, and he has not spoken one word in 3 months. Not one word. And she said we were just totally emotional about what just happened. The doctors said already like 6 weeks ago he could start speaking, but he hasn't said anything. So I said to her, I said, that's one heck of a way to get a free CD from me, but I'm giving you a free CD of my music. And although maybe it was a cassette actually back then, as I mentioned. But then I said to her, listen, it's not my music, it's not rap, it's just music. Music is really magic. So you have to do more music with him. Go like songs that he used to sing, songs that he likes, play those, and he'll start singing along. And but can you imagine that incredibly powerful lesson that I would have missed if, like an idiot, I would have listened to my ego. I would have said, here you go, Rabbi Schmalter, here's the cassette tapes. I am out of here, right? Because my ego is way too big to handle this. And what a kick in the backside to me. Like, what an amazing, powerful lesson for me to learn. That, first of all, you can't judge anybody ever, right? You can't judge anybody. I didn't know that's what was that's what was happening. And that's the truth of the matter is we don't know. We don't know what every single person on the planet, what their situation is, what they're dealing with, who they are, why they're here. But one thing we do know that they're here, and when we're around them and they've come into our Dalet Amos, that we're meant to do something with them. I truly believe that. We are meant to interact with them, and we're meant to engage them in some way, even if it's just to say, hello, how are you? How's life treating you? Oh, I'm on the subway. Here, ma'am, take my seat. And it makes a huge Kiddush Hashem, and then maybe they start talking to you, maybe not. But we have to be present, and then we realize that the quality of each moment, just comes shining through. And so we just, it's easier said than done, but it's just something I, just see in my daily life, and time and time again. So let me say l'chaim to the Spalters, who, by the way, they have now, because Gimezi hired a full band. Right? It's a full band. I'm sure if they played cassettes, he wouldn't have gone around with a microphone to this guy, right? They now have a big, huge, beautiful Chabad house. They have a Hebrew school. They've got, like daily minyanim. I mean, he's turned over his community. He came, he saw, he conquered. But it's quality over quantity. He didn't get bummed out. He didn't come out to me, which he could have done, and said, I think if I would have been running a Chabad house and a full band of 4 or 5 musicians come in, I'd be like, oh shoot, I think I could save me $1,000 right now. And I'd be, guys, I sent out 500 invitations and there's only 5 people besides my family. So would you mind just taking $200 and like hitting the road? He could have so easily told me that. You know what? I would have done it. And I probably would have said, no, you keep the 200. Or maybe I would have said, let me just get the money, pay the band members, but don't pay me. But he didn't. And that, to his credit, he didn't. And then look as a result, what happened. I mean, this was the first time this guy spoke in 3 months. And his family needed to know that, with music, maybe I can start to open up my husband's brain again. Maybe my father will start speaking more, maybe that helps save this guy. So, but again, it's just a matter of us, staying tuned in, keeping that focus. So let me say L'chaim. We have to say L'chaim to the Spalters, the Slonims, and to all you awesome Shluchim out there. I'm not sure how many thousands of you are tuning in right now, but remember, even if it's just one, Shmuley, even if it's just you and me, Kedai, big time.
L'chaim.
L'chaim uvracha. Hatzlacha rabba.
Amen. Doc, can I, we have a few minutes ahead of us. I want to bring it to a close on time. Can I change the channel just slightly for a second?
Sure. Any direction you want.
So I'm gonna put you on a little bit of a vulnerable chassid spot.
Uh-huh.
There, in your journeys, so you shared earlier that Rabbi Gerari was, that mystical course of the Rabbi Gerari changed your life.
Right.
You've had encounters with the Rebbe along the way. You learn the Rebbe's chassidus. You're in many ways, you are the Rebbe's shliach. What would you suggest, if we're allowed to go there? If not, just say stop, change the channel. But what would you suggest is the Rebbe's message today, based on what you know from the Rebbe, Chassid, the Shluchim? What's the Rebbe's message to the shliach? Let me back up just for a second. I have a pet peeve that one day at the Kinnas HaShluchim, they're going to introduce the keynote speaker and say, "This is a man who had 11 people on Rosh Hashanah." And the room is
what?
11 people in the shul on Rosh Hashanah.
Ah.
And the whole room is going to stand up and applaud and say, "Thank God I don't have to be in that Chabad house. So thank God I'm not the shliach at that Chabad, but I'm glad he's there and I'll pay for him to stay there because I don't want that. Because it's too small for me."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not that may be odd, that may be right, it may be wrong. It's just my little shtick.
Uh-huh.
We know that when the Rebbe is counting diamonds, it's valueless. People aren't worth what's in their bank account. They're worth the value of a neshama, which is infinite. We know that from the Baal Shem Tov and straight down.
Right.
What would you say is the Rebbe's message, possibly to the shliach, young shliach or any age shliach, young at heart, in a place where he knows that for this Yom Tov, it's going to be on the quieter side. And he may be playing Monopoly with his kid on Rosh Hashanah afternoon to keep the family sane because there's no other opportunities right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if he got a phone call from Rabbi Chadakov that said, it's Erev Yom Tov and I'm calling to give you this message from the Rebbe, what do you imagine that message might sound like?
I would think that I think it's something that the Shluchim all know deep down inside, and maybe even not so deep down inside. And I think it's not really like earth-shattering. I think it's a very simple but very profound, powerful message to steer the course and stay strong and stay open and reach out with the love, light, and beauty of Yiddishkeit and with joy. And to me, I was, in my college days, I investigated so many other religions. I was really searching. And so I looked into Eastern religions. I looked into Christianity. I looked into Zen Buddhism. I was really looking. In a million years, I never would have thought it was in my own backyard. But what attracted me to it, I'll just tell you in a nutshell. In my hippie days, so one of the songs was "Dancing in the Streets," right? It was like dancing, they're dancing in the streets, right? But I never danced in the streets in my hippie days. You know what I did? With Rabbi Garari and Chabados and Simchas Torah. That I danced in the streets. So he was like a bigger hippie than all the hippies put together. he did it. And so to me, I was like, wow. And it was Simchas Torah, and he was like, the lights were red. He says, let's go right into the street. I was like, Rabbi, are you crazy? Are you out of your flipping mind? Let's go. So he goes into the street, where he had the Sefer Torah. We're dancing a small circle. The lights change green. Some cars are beeping their horns, and some guys got out of the car and started dancing with us. So I thought, wow, this guy, I thought like I was, the coolest, or I was the wildest. He makes me look tame. But, I just think that the message is just, reach out with love and joy. And, when you mentioned about, I wanted to parenthetically add about, you said, oh, they're going to be playing like Monopoly with their kids, you know what? Then that's what you're meant to do. That's an awesome thing. Don't minimize that. Don't think you're playing Monopoly with your kids or playing Uno or whatever it is any less important than you putting tefillin on somebody, or you learning with, a yid who's just coming into Chabad, or the first time doing Shabbat, or the first time, being exposed to Yiddishkeit. Your kids are just as important. Your family is just as important as any yid you're going to meet out there, and perhaps more important. So I think it's good. I think it's healthy that people do devote, personal quality time with their own kids and their own family. I remember one time, I'll give you an example. I remember a few years ago, a neighbor who's I'm very close with, and we're kind of related. So he says to me, it was Chalamoid Sukkos. And he says, okay, I'm going downtown Miami to, Ben Shluchim and Esrog with you, and I want you to come with me. So you know what I said to him? I said to him, I have a big Kirov project. He says to me, what are you doing? He says, I'm taking my kids out. I'm taking my kids out. We have to be, sometimes we forget to be makar of ourselves, our own kids, our own family. And so when you mentioned, I just wanted to say, like, I think that's a beautiful holy thing. Whenever we're together as a family, almost every Shabbos we have guests in our house here. And for some reason, it ended up like our steady guests, each one of them was sick for different reasons. And people we asked, they were all booked, or we had no guests. And I thought to myself, you know what? I have private time with my wife. We'll sit, we'll learn. I'll sing some Nagunim, whatever it is. Like, we'll take advantage of those moments. And so sometimes, we kind of get bogged down. And again, I think it's, forget about the numbers game, notches on the belt, how many did you have? How many did you have? It's nice to have a lot. No, I'm not saying not, but if not, that's the ball game. Keep it, you keep it real. And I feel like the Rebbe always, there's so many stories of like how the Rebbe was just present walking home, and he'd talk, he'd see a couple teenagers, black teenagers playing on the street, and the Rebbe would have, interactions with them and speak to them, and that made a major impact on this kid's life. One little stop, and so it really is true. Like, I saw it in Crown Heights so much. Like,
I'm going to interject for a second.
Yeah.
You have a track record for breaking track records. So amongst the rabbis,
I wish I did it in track.
So amongst the rabbis, ending on time there's not a big track record for that, but I do want to end at 5:15 to honor everybody's time. So I'm putting you on the clock. Can you bring the farbrengen to a close? Open your heart a little wider than you think it's capable, and close it off with a bracha to the Shluchim from your heart to theirs of whatever you want to wish them in honor of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and anything else.
Well, from my heart, I want to, they say, where does the brachas, alti brachas hedyot kal beinecha? Okay, so from brachas hedyot. So just wishing from my heart that to keep up your awesome work. You guys are really not just home away from homes, which you are, but you're like beacons of light and you bring light, love, joy, stability to this crazy world. And so keep on keeping on. Don't lose heart. Don't get discouraged. Things will grow. Begashmis, uberuchnis, and like Marv Levy said, be here, present, right here, right now. And if I could just end with this one little thing, there was a reporter who interviewed the Rebbitzin, and he asked the Rebbitzin, or she asked the Rebbitzin, what's her most amazing moments, in life? Like what's the most amazing moment? Expecting her to say, when I married the Rebbe, when we came to America, all these kinds of huge events. And she said, my most amazing moment is right here, right now. Right? And I think this reporter was speechless for about 5 minutes because the Rebbitzin totally outcooled her. I'm supposed to be the cool hip reporter, and you're telling me your most amazing moment is right here, right now, with me. That's mind-boggling. So if we just keep that focus, and Hashem should bless you with Begashmus u'Baruchnius. I was with Berachas HaGefen, Hatzlacha Rabba, with tremendous success, gesund, good health, Parnasa Barachava, Ashirus. Forget about Parnasa. I'm talking about Ashirus. So people coming up to you should be able to give Meiser like millions without the blink of an eye. That'll be your Meiser. And Nachas, and bring Nachas to Kol Am Yisrael, Nachas to the Rebbe, Nachas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and just keep up your awesome work. And I hope at some point come out and do some of my Jewish rap stuff for you.
Doc L'chaim, you did a fantabulous job of being right here, right now, and I know where you were at 4:00, so that's pretty cool how you moved right into the zone. And I think our collective bracha to you is, as you enter into Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I hope your heart is filled with extra joy knowing that you directly impacted tens of thousands through the Shluchim who are leading them, that you've directly impacted tens of thousands beyond number in a positive, meaningful, uplifting Yom Tov experience. So thank you to you, all the brachas to you and your family. Thank you to all the Shluchim that are joining, and Shivik Sivach Simatayva, Lashana Teva Masuka, and L'chaim Ad Lidai.
Amen. Amen. Chaim to the Rothmans. Give big kush to your Abba. Okay? Tell him I love him.